All right, here we go. Michael Rapaport, welcome back to Vlad TV.
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
I'm in the hot seat.
That's right. In the New York studio this time.
I'm in the New York studio. This is. Listen, people don't see. This is some fucking spread you got here, Vlad.
Thank you. I try.
This is some fucking spread. It looks like you're just like sort of floating around and you come up here like this is some fucking spread.
Thank you. Thank you. We try. I mean, we've been here for quite a while in New York. This is like our main studio here.
It's nice.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot going on right now, but you've always been very outspoken about the whole Israel-Hamas conflict. You and I are both Jewish.
Yep.
And I have publicly said this before on the Breakfast Club as well as social media, that I kind of feel that both sides are at fault for different types of things when it comes to this conflict. Obviously, the whole Hamas attack was horrific and all the kidnappings and everything else like that. But I also don't agree with, in terms of how Gaza was cut off for such a long time, and I also don't agree with the way that the retaliation happened with Netanyahu, where a lot of children and kids and non-combatants were killed in the process. So I see faults on both sides. How do you feel about the whole thing?
I mean, it's a hard answer to give, but I mean, I'll start with, war is vicious, war is brutal, and Israel has done every single thing within its power to try to avoid civilian casualties, and the records prove that the civilian casualties are lower than ever. It's inevitable that civilians are going to get hurt. I mean, as of we're recording this podcast, the Ministry of Health, the Gaza Ministry of Health, hasn't acknowledged that one Hamas terrorist has been killed. They say 40,000 people have been killed. It's a genocide. But within that 40,000, they don't acknowledge that Hamas has been unlived, have been killed. I mean, it's such a complicated, long history, but the reality of it is that there is no two-state solution. It's impossible.
Why is that?
Because when people say globalize the intifada from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that's not...
That means wiping out Israel.
That means wiping out Israel.
And the Jews, yeah.
Wiping out Israel and wiping out the Jews. And the idea of a two-state solution, you can't, it takes two to tango. It takes two-state solution tango. And the regime of Iran, the Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, the lunatics on the college campuses, when they say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that means Israel won't exist. They've tried and tried and tried. Israel's not perfect. The United States isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. My mother, my father, my kids, New York City is far from perfect. Manhattan, Brooklyn, wherever you love, Paris, wherever you're from, nowhere is perfect. Israel's, for some reason, held to these standards that it must be perfect about every single thing. There is no two-state solution. There's no two-state solution after what happened October 7th. There's been deal after deal after deal after deal after deal to try to give the Palestinians a state, and every single deal has been rejected. Every single deal has been turned into a ceasefire. Every single deal has, every time there's a ceasefire, it's been broken. There's no two-state solution.
Yeah, I mean, Hamas refuses to talk directly to Israel because they don't see them as an actual country. They see them as occupiers.
Right.
So any communication between Hamas and Israel has to happen through the Palestinian government, essentially.
Which is who? The Palestinian government is the Palestinian Authority or the Qatar.
Right.
Listen, Hamas is a bunch of caveman animals. They're animals. Their mentality is caveman animal shit. And they proved that their mentality is caveman shit since the day they were in. since the day they were voted in. You want to talk about rigged election? I would love to see that the numbers really counted on that. But there's no getting along. They don't want to get along. They've said they don't want to get along. They've said after October 7th they want many, 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 many more October 7ths. And the head of it all, Iran, they celebrate it. They want many, many, many October 7th. They want the elimination of Israel. They want the elimination of Jews. There's no discussion when you're dealing with that. And we think it's like, oh, it's just like some far out shit, or why are they so mad? Fuck why they're so mad. That's where I'm at now after a year and some change. Fuck why you're so mad. You know, when they talk about why they're so mad, they're talking about, oh, well, in 1948, this, that, and the third happened. There's nothing good. And anyone could try to, in the comments, there's not one thing good that has come out of Gaza in 76 years. There's not one piece of science, one piece of art. There's nothing as good to come out of this place in 76 years. Their whole point of view, their whole agenda has been to destroy Israel and reclaim what they think is their land. And who wants to bore everybody with the thousands and thousands of year history of it all? But 10 hours after the state of Israel was announced, a war started.
Right.
Israel hasn't been able to breathe since the day it was conceived. So, I mean, it's just, obviously, like I said, Israel's not perfect. They have never been perfect. United States isn't perfect. There's no place or person, business, nothing is perfect. There's certainly no state that is perfect. So certainly no country that is perfect.
Well, look, I've been to Israel multiple times. I've also been to Palestine, where I had dinner with the family and we spoke about issues and so forth. I will tell you this. 99% of the people who are protesting, who are anti-Israel on these campuses and so forth, 99% of them have never actually been to Israel. They think it's a whole bunch of desert and empty land that someone could just move in and take over. Israel's a full-blown first world country. It's really pretty much America. You know, same type of roads, same type of infrastructure, high rises and so forth. Israel isn't going anywhere. I know you want to say from the river to the sea. That's not a realistic, statement. Israel is always going to be around for the foreseeable future. There's too much infrastructure. There's billions of dollars. People live there. You're not just going to wipe it out and take it over like, let's say, Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban. That's not going to happen. Okay? So no matter how you want to look at it, you have to take a step back and realize that Israel's here to stay, and you're going to have to work your way out around that reality, as opposed to saying these people should be eliminated and this is our land, we should get it all back. Nobody is going to give anything back.
Period.
It is what it is. It is what it is. But like I said, I am not happy with, and I looked it up, 41,000 Palestinian deaths to 1,700 Israeli deaths. That is a very uneven number, and I believe that something like 60 or 70% of the Palestinian deaths are non-combatants. They're not men of fighting age. There's kids, women, and so forth. And I understand that the Hamas hide behind the civilians and hide in the hospitals and hide in the schools, but ultimately you have to work around that. You know what I'm saying? I know it's not an easy way to deal with things, but you have to work around that because you don't want to set up a situation which is happening now. But when you say
this number of 41,000 Gazans killed,
yes,
there's no proof of purchase. There's no verification. And like I said, when they say 41,000 Gazans killed, if that's the number they're saying today, within that 41,000, if you're not giving Hamas terrorists, participants, and even if you're not official Hamas, the scumbags that were meandering, raping, pillaging, stealing, robbing, burning on October 7th, if you're like, you're not part of a gang, but you're gang affiliated, those people that were meandering through the kibbutz on October 7th, of that 41,000 that you're looking up right now, of that 41,000 that people are looking up, how many of them are terrorists? And who's giving these numbers? The terrorists are giving these numbers.
I understand. But I think you and
I know you do, but I want, because
I think you and I could agree that a lot of people who are being killed in Gaza are not Hamas.
Of course, a lot of people. It's disgusting. It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's also
when
terrible
you drop
that
bombs, and I understand you send out notes, please evacuate, everything else like that. But people end up staying. People don't have anywhere to go. People are very poor. They end up staying, and a lot of innocent people are getting killed. I'm just saying it's creating a lot of anti-Semitism in the world. It's creating, and this is what Hamas wants. Hamas wants sympathy around the world to make it look like they're the victims, even though they were initially the aggressors when it comes to the October 7th attack. It's a complex situation. I understand how far it goes back. It goes back before Jesus' time.
Mm-hmm.
Both parties have laid claim to this land. At first it was Jewish land, then it became Muslim land, then it became Jewish again, and so forth. It's a bunch of religious shit that I don't even subscribe to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
understand. Yeah. And it's like you and I are roughly the same age. Our entire lives, Israel has been at war with the Palestinians. Our entire lives. There hasn't been like a 5-year stretch where everyone was hanging out and, having parties together and going back and forth over the border. Originally, it was Arafat and the PLO, and now it's Hamas. And at certain times, it was Hezbollah. At certain times, it was the Taliban. For example, I interviewed Eric Prince, who is the founder of Blackwater. He says Iran is behind the whole thing.
Yeah, Iran is
Iran has been funding this forever.
That's not a secret. The Iran regime is funding the entire thing.
Exactly.
And the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and all of them are the little whores, the little street-walking whores for the big pimp, the Iran regime. Hamas is shit. The Hezbollah is shit. The Houthis are shit. Without Iran funding them, they don't exist. And Iran is the big the one that needs to be taken down.
Yeah, well, Hamas's leader just got killed, and
it's a glorious thing. It's a glorious moment.
This is the person behind the actual attack on October 7th.
Yahya Sinwar,
right?
Who was in prison for 20 years for killing Jews, for killing Palestinians, whose life was saved while he was in prison because he had cancer by Jewish doctors. He got out in that deal for that soldier and masterminded the greatest atrocity in modern history against Jews in Israel.
Well, now that the Hamas leader's been killed, I'd like to actually elect Marjorie Taylor Greene as the new leader of Hamas because she shares some of the same values. She thinks the Jews are behind all the evil in the world, that they control the weather, they control the media. I think she'd be a great Hamas leader. What do you think?
She's not cut out for that. You need to get her on this show, though. Have you ever tried to get her on this show?
I have not, but actually, I'd probably get demonetized, though. After that conversation, I'm sure I'd trigger all types of...
Yeah. You get
all types of YouTube, Wikipedia, notes all through the interview and everything else like that.
As far as Yuck Sinwar being eliminated, unlived, it's a moment, but I know that I know that the hostage families, I know that everybody whose life has been, whose families have been torn apart, so many of the IDF soldiers who have been injured, so many of the people whose heartbroken would let him walk off into the sunset, go off to have all their people back and to have everything not happened. It's a moment because the world is a better place without him, but I know that everybody would trade their loved ones back to the way they were before October 7th if he would living and going away somewhere.